At that point, I was sort of picking up on something that is in Lisbon and that was there from day one. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into my trip to Lisbon. So I've been seeing a lot of these videos online doing deep dives, and honestly, I love watching them. Like, this is like the kind of video I will always put on if I'm like falling asleep, if I just want something to like chill out to. So I was like, why not make it about an experience that I had? And I ended up booking this solo trip to Lisbon about like 2 weeks ago, and I truly thought that I would go there, I would film my little vlog, you know, just do my little 1-2, but it ended up actually being a very spiritual experience. Like, it was on some like parable shit, honestly. So I definitely want to like tell you guys the full story, the full scoop. So yeah, I will be including some little vlogs, little videos that I did take, but it is going to be narrated by me. So yes, narrator Jacob has entered the chat. So I'm going to be narrating this whole little story. Definitely buckle in, get yourself a little tea, a little coffee. Yeah, we're going to tell the whole story from the start. Also, I do want to mention this video will be great for someone who is looking to solo travel, who wants to maybe hear an experience, you know, hear the highs, the lows, a full like detailed experience of what it's like to travel alone. So if that is you, then definitely stick around. So we're finally getting into it. Let's talk about Lisbon. Let's talk about this solo trip that I decided to book literally 2 weeks ago. Ever since my last excursion to Belgium, I have had intense, when I tell you intense, I mean like the most intense travel fever. And I've just been wanting to travel, like go places, and I saw an opportunity and I went for it. Basically, I saw there was pretty like cheap tickets, pretty cheap Airbnbs this time of year to go to Lisbon. Not a lot of people are going there to travel. I thought, I got the tickets, the Airbnb, and I booked a day trip as well. So I booked a day trip to Sintra. It is like probably the most popular day trip you can do from Lisbon. I did practically zero research going on to this solo trip, which you will see this play out in the story later on, but let's go back. Once I had booked this trip, I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. I just kind of went on with my life. I kept making those little reels, those little TikToks, you know. Like, before I knew it, it was like the day before my trip, and I was like, oh shit, like I have to like pack, I have to prepare, I have to figure out how am I gonna get from the airport in Lisbon to my Airbnb. Like, I had nothing planned. I guess there was this sort of notion in my mind that a lot of people go to Lisbon for holidays, so I was like, how hard can it be? You know, this must be the most like traveled city, the most like open space you could possibly go to. So I guess that's why I didn't put a lot of time into like planning it. Like, literally, if you go on those like travel websites, Lisbon is like the #1 place suggested for like a safe like solo travel trip. Okay, so basically it was the day that I was heading out to Lisbon. I woke up, I think it was like 4 or half 4 in the morning, because I did book an early flight. Personally, I like an early flight because it means that I can literally spend like the rest of the day in that country, and I can just kind of like get used to the vibes, which is usually what I do. I arrived to Lisbon and I don't really remember much from the airport, to be honest, because I felt so much excitement. Like, this always happens when I solo travel. I get this sort of like adrenaline, like I'm so just like excited to like get it started. So I hopped on to the metro, and you guys, this is one thing that Lisbon does right. I think Austria does it as well, where they have a metro that goes from the airport into the city center. Now in Lisbon, I don't think it's like a direct line, but there is like a way you can like switch on from one metro to another. And I was going to switch over onto the other line that would bring me like right into the city center, but then I was looking at my maps on my phone and I was like, this isn't too far, like I could just get off at this stop and like walk the rest of the way. And in my mind I was like, you know, maybe I'll see something on the way, some like cool like tourist attractions, cool like buildings, and maybe it's like a less like popular spot, so I'll be able to like film without a lot of like background noise. I finally get there, I'm heading out of the metro, and once I got out, I just sort of like looked around for a little bit and I started to notice things that I was not mentally prepared for. No, I was not. So remember how I said that Lisbon is voted as like one of the like safest countries to travel to? I don't think so. I really don't. When I walked out of that metro, I was just in a very just hostile and unsafe neighborhood. I definitely got off at like the dodgiest neighborhood. But you know what's really funny about this situation, right? It's that this happens to me in almost every single country that I visit. And this is the first time that I noticed it, because this happened in Austria, it happened in Prague, and it did happen in Belgium when I did do like a little day trip. I get so excited. I'm like, I just want to like go and like explore. I always end up getting off at the wrong stop and like ending up in some like shady neighborhood. And basically I feel like I saw the worst of Lisbon before I saw like the good. After I saw what I saw, I started to kind of freak out and I started to like panic a little bit. Basically when I got off the metro, I started walking around that area trying to figure out which way I was meant to go, and I saw a lot of just shady people just kind of like waiting around, and I felt like I was being like watched from afar. Like I had not felt this sort of like scared feeling since I was in Belgium last year, where I nearly got like attacked or whatever, but that's another story for another time. I don't know, just like the vibe of the place was scary. No, fuck that. It wasn't that. It was literally the fact that there was a lot of homeless people, a lot of people who looked like they would for some food and some change, to be honest. And I started to freak out. I started to panic in my mind because I was like, I'm alone in this foreign country. I don't know one word of the language. I don't know how to like navigate these streets. Like I don't know, you know, I don't know the vibes here. And as much as this had happened in like the other countries that I visited, it didn't feel as like intimidating. Like genuinely, when I got out of that station, it just felt like everyone was like, pfft. But eventually I did end up finding my way. I looked to Google Maps and I literally spoke to that motherfucker. I was like, you are not bringing me down a shady street, a shady neighborhood. We are going down the main road and we're making our way swiftly to the city center. And that's exactly what we did. I literally sped walk through those streets, and I really thought that the closer I got to city center, it would feel safer. And I was proved wrong very quickly, let me tell you. I think at one point I was being followed by someone for a little bit, but if you guys know me, you know that I can walk very, very quickly. So I was able just to kind of like walk fast from the person, and I think they just got tired. In my mind, I kept thinking that when I did get into the city center, into like the touristy part of the city, that it would feel safer. And I got there, and to be honest, it really didn't. Like, to me, in my mind, I was still holding on to a lot of the fear, and I couldn't let go of it. Like, no matter what I tried, I was in like full just like survival mode, full just like trying to get out of that place. And yeah, and it was definitely reflected in a lot of like the photos that I took. I was just kind of like quickly taking photos, quickly taking videos, not really like being present or even being in the moment. I was scared, you know, I felt lost, I felt scared. I was kind of like, what did I sign up for? You know, I really thought that I would be going to a country where I did feel safe, and looking back at it, I was safe. I was safe in where I was. I just wasn't used to the way things work in Lisbon and the way the culture is. And this is something that is the truth all around the world. You know, every country has a different culture. Someone who's coming from a country like Portugal or Spain to Ireland might also feel the same way I did. You know, they might not feel safe with the way that it is here, because Dublin isn't like a fully like safe place either, but like you just kind of get used to it. So I think I just wasn't used to the kind of safety and the kind of like vibes in that area. And I believed this then, but like I truly know it now that solo travel is probably the most humbling experience you will experience. Here's the thing, right? So when you do something that's difficult, when you do something that's completely out of your comfort zone, you know, something that you're scared of, a lot of these feelings that you have suppressed, a lot of these beliefs that you thought don't have a power over you, don't have any sort of weight on who you are, they will rise to the surface, you know, even if they are deeply, deeply held inside you. Like putting yourself in a situation where you have to survive, where you have to just kind of adapt to a completely new environment that you know nothing about, will bring these fears out. And in the moment when it happens, it sucks. You feel like you are literally just surviving, but what you don't know is you are getting a new awareness, an awareness of these fears, of these limits that you had no idea about. Because when you live your life day to day in this sort of like routine and this like safety, a lot of these fears, you won't even notice them, you know, because you are in that like stable place. But when you are put in a situation where that feeling of like safety, that feeling of stability isn't there, a lot of these fears, a lot of these negative beliefs that you've held on to for a long time will be brought to the surface. And you need these situations to happen so you can deal with these feelings and these beliefs. So as much as it was a uncomfortable first day, it definitely brought me to a place where I was like, okay, now I see what I want to work on, you know. But yeah, I truly felt like I saw the bad of Lisbon before I saw the good. Or actually, you know, what I said earlier was more true. The fact that what I observed I thought was bad, but actually it was just my reaction, you know, my lack of awareness, you know, that I had on that first day, you know, that really manifested into fear. I'm going to include a video that I took when I first got into my Airbnb, kind of going through everything that was there. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this little clip, and narrator Jacob will be back shortly. So this is the bedroom. So it is a king size bed, so I'm really excited for that. And here are the views. Honestly, the view is kind of a slay. I like all the like buildings, like this one here especially, like what the hell? It's this cool little like steps building, and then this one's being built as we speak. And then this is the main area. So this is kind of like what made me go with this Airbnb, because in the pictures this area was like just very like bright, very open, and honestly I still do like it being here. Like I can just imagine myself just like sitting like here and just like with the like little view here and just like journaling. So yeah, that's this area. And also I do like how many books there are. Like, you guys, look at all these books. But yeah, so this is the kind of like kitchen slash laundry room. So that's it there. And then this is like the main like entrance, like hallway area with the bathroom. So the bathroom is here, but then this is the shower. And that's me. Wait, let's just give it. Okay, good morning guys. So it is the day of the trip today and your boy is excited. Listen, I slept on it. We feel better. We feel a lot better. So yeah, I got up today, I had my coffee, I had a little bit of breakfast, and I got ready. we're chilling until 7:30, and then I'm gonna leave for the bus. I still have to top up my card, and I'm gonna see if the Lidl is open, because there's a Lidl actually like really close to the apartment I'm staying at. So I'm gonna see if that's open and I can get myself some water. Yeah, I'm excited. The thing I'm most excited for, right, more than amazing views and nature or whatever, is actually interacting and meeting people. I feel like if I look back on yesterday, like that was like my highlight, you know, just like literally like talking to like the landlord for like 5 minutes, you know, even though he didn't understand me, he only spoke Portuguese, but like still just having that like human connection was really nice. And it's nice that that's something that I'm actually like I want to experience that, whereas like in the past I would want to just like be alone as much as possible. So then I got off the bus and I was making my way to the group. So I did actually see the people had congregated in this little like group in the park. So I was like, okay, I see my people. I'm so excited to like finally like interact with people, because mind you, I was pretty much alone this whole like experience. Yes, I did voluntarily book a solo trip, but the reason that I did book this day trip was so I could like interact with people and like meet new people. So I walked up and I was like, you know, trying to like say hi to everyone, like be all like open, and just something about the group, it just like the energy was not reciprocated. People were kind of just in their little huddles. There was a lot of couples, a lot of like families that were going to this trip, and in my mind I thought this was going to be kind of like a intimate experience where, you know, where we go on this little like day trip, like maybe it's like 5-6 people, but it ended up actually being that our group was like 20 people, right? Which I totally get, you know, this is a really like popular tour, so of course they're going to try to get like as many people to go on this as possible, but at the same time it did also make it harder for me to interact with people, just because I did feel very like overwhelmed. So yeah, even though it was a bigger group, I still really wanted to like interact with people and like meet new people. So I did try to kind of say hi to people, start like little conversations, and I don't know what it was on that group, like everyone just kind of wanted to keep to themselves, you know, which is completely fine, but in my mind this was something that I wanted so bad. And when I was interacting with these people, it probably did feel like I was kind of like chasing a conversation, you know, even though they were not about it. But yeah, so we were on the bus, there was 2 tour guides, which made a lot of sense. You know, if there was a group of 20 people, you know, you kind of like separate it. And I will say the tour guides were amazing. You know, like the tour guides, they did a great job. They truly made sure that everyone had a good and like fun experience on the trip. And the actual ride there was not too long. I think we were in the bus for about like 30 minutes. One thing about this day is it was raining, you know, something that I was not expecting. Like I definitely booked this trip thinking that, oh, Portugal is a country where it just never rains, it's always good weather. So yeah, when we first got there, I was excited. I was like, you know, I was like, wow, this is like a really like cool place. Like it really felt like this like fairy tale village. As much as I was trying to like enjoy it and like be in the moment and be present, there was this sort of like doom and gloom in the back of my mind where I kept telling myself like, you need to like talk to someone, you need to like make friends, make connections. And I really felt like I couldn't let go of this thought. So as much as like you'll see a lot of very pretty videos, pretty pictures, know that your boy was going through it. Yes, I was definitely overthinking. I was just like not in a good place mentally whatsoever. And as much as like now I'm understanding where a lot of this like fear and a lot of this like these like negative emotions were coming from, in the moment I had no idea. You know, because me before that trip, I was feeling so confident. I was feeling so just like open and like the most like creatively free that I had felt in a long time, you know, like looking back at like the last like few like short videos, like those were all pretty much off the cuff, which is something that I've really wanted to do for a long time. I've wanted to make videos completely unscripted or just like with like a rough outline. And I was so happy with those videos and I was so ready just to keep like making things, like even make like little like short videos while I was there on the trip, but I felt this sort of like overwhelming fear. And honestly, the weather reflected my mood. So yeah, it started to rain a lot more. And you know what's funny though, right? Like low-key, the rain did kind of add to the vibe on this trip. Like from looking at like the trip like advertisement little thing on Get Your Guide, now I see like this trip is meant to be this like sunny, like fantastical like experience that you go on. Like you feel like you're in this like magical village in the sun. But I feel like the experience I got was something completely different, you know, and it wasn't bad, you know. I was kind of like into the kind of like dark, like gothic atmosphere of it. And so yes, it started to really pour, like it started to get very, very rainy. So I saw one of the people in our group go into a little like gift shop to get an umbrella, and I was like, I'm gonna do the same. And let me tell you something, I didn't just get an umbrella, I got a fucking relic. First of all, the color story is just incredible. Like it has this little like marbled wood handle and this like just like dark blue and off-white trimming. But the best part about this umbrella, are you ready for it? Right, so it has this little like button on it, and when you press it, it opens by itself. I don't know why, but that made me so just like excited. And I was like, wow, all of a sudden, all of my fears and my doubts have just like disappeared. All because of this umbrella. So the first part of this tour was getting to kind of like wander around like the main village in Sintra. And that part, honestly, I didn't find too fun, just because yet again, I really wanted to talk to people. I wanted to kind of like interact and feel like I was like part of something. And it was just these like two feelings like battling in my mind, like, oh, I want to like talk to people, and then like another voice telling me basically like, oh, you shouldn't talk to people because you're in this like manic state, like no one's gonna want to like put up with you and talk to you. Like I said, your boy was going through it. But then I did go back to the group. I think we had only like half an hour or whatever just to like walk around, get like a coffee there, and then we got back into the group. And then next we were going to this place called Regularia, which the best way I would describe this is it's like a castle church experience with a weird cultish initiation well. This was a part of the tour I had no idea about. Like when I tell you I booked this tour, I looked at like one photo from the listing, and then I saw that it was like the like highest rated thing, and then I booked it. Like that was the whole process for me. But this was not included with the purchase of this tour, so this is something you had to pay extra for, which I wish they just honestly included it all together, because there was also another part of the trip that was included in the thing that I purchased, but then some people had to pay extra for, which just makes no sense. Like I rather just pay for everything in one and not be told about some like extra cost. But honestly, this experience was worth it, and I would definitely go back to Sintra just to see this Regularia place because it was really cool. It definitely gave like Resident Evil 8 vibes. I do mention that in a little like clip that I took there. Okay, you guys, I finally found a spot. This whole time it's just been like surrounded by tourists, and I'm like, I know I'm a tourist as well, so let me not even do that whole thing. But I'm so happy that I came here. It is incredibly beautiful. It literally looks like something out of like Resident Evil 8, like this castle does. I've yet to like actually speak and have a conversation with anyone. Shy Jacob is coming out on this trip, honestly, because I don't know, I don't feel as like comfortable as I do in Dublin. Like in Dublin, I have no problem like making new friends, like talking to new people, but then out here I'm just kind of like, it's just a lot. Right now, I'm heading back to the town. Look at the little castle behind me. Like, this is tea. But yeah, right now, I'm heading back to the little town, and I'm gonna get myself some food because I'm so fucking hungry. Nothing else to really update you guys. I'm probably gonna just like include like the clips of like the castle and everything that I saw in between me just chatting. This was a place I would love to smoke at. This is a place where I feel like you could manifest anything. Like it felt very spiritual. Whether this was a good spiritual or a bad spiritual, that is for you to decide. I know there's some like crazy stories about this place, but that's another story for another time. Definitely not this video. For me, how it felt being there, it was just, I just enjoyed the beauty of the place. And something I noticed a lot of was sequoia trees, which I don't know if there are any in Ireland. I haven't seen any myself, but I just thought they were so beautiful. Like definitely one of my favorite trees, I will say. They're so just huge. Like I think that's why I like them so much, because they're very like, they just seem otherworldly because they are so like just like big. And when we went in, we kind of explored the gardens a little bit, and we were brought up to go down into the initiation well, which this is, I guess, one of the more like Instagrammy places. It's kind of this like upside down tower that goes into the ground, and it has these like arches. Then at the bottom it has these 3 tunnels, and basically from what I remember of the story, so at the bottom of this well were these 3 tunnels. So 2 of them were lit, and then the one in the middle, or I think it was off to the side, was completely like blacked out. And basically the person would have to go down there and make the choice between the 3 tunnels, and the ones that were lit had something kind of bad at the end of them, and they didn't have like an exit out, whereas the one that was in the dark, that was the way out, you know. And it's supposed to be sort of a representation that sometimes you have to take that like leap of faith, like go into the dark to come out into the light. But being there, I will be completely honest with you guys, the energy and the vibes, it felt very heavy, like going down into that place. I do wish, however, that the like middle part, the like place in between the stairs, in the middle of the stairs, if that makes sense, wasn't blocked off. Actually, if you do go all the way down into the well, the part that's in the middle is blocked off, so you can only kind of just like put your phone in and then take a photo from above. I don't know if that is so people can get better photos, or if there's some other like reason. So then after we got out of the initiation well, we went into the castle, I think. I can't remember if this was like a castle or a church, but I have tons of photos of it. It was so beautiful. Like I would definitely smoke. I would definitely hotbox all of those rooms, even though I don't smoke. Like it was such a vibe. Like I would definitely smoke in all those rooms, if you know what I'm saying. And yeah, so I ended up kind of just like wandering around, and I did feel myself sort of just like relax into being there and being present. We did have a lot more time this time around. I think we had like 2 hours basically to explore that place and then go back into the little town and get some food. And yeah, I ended up going back into the town and then just kind of like looking around like where I wanted to eat. And I remember this really stressed me out. Yes, it did. So the tour guide, he did mention like some good places that we can eat, but he was very vague about it, which annoyed me. He mentioned these places, and he stressed that like you should like really take your time, like read the menu, understand that like it's your experience. And like these are all things that like I know in the back of my mind, but mind you, I was in survival mode. Like I was fully like just trying to like get food. Like at that point I was like really hungry. So he had mentioned I think like 3 places. So one of them was like this cafe, which I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to do a cafe because I want something like bigger, like I want a dinner. And then the second place was this like grandma's like restaurant, but he mentioned that the food would take like an hour to be made. And keep in mind we had like 2 hours, and I still did want to like see more things. And then he mentioned the third option, which guess what the third option was? Guess what the third option was? A fucking food court. And if you know me, you know that I hate food courts. Like it is a big pet peeve of mine. Like I cannot stand food courts. I don't like customizing and like picking like different things, but this kind of seemed like the most likely option at the time. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go and do it. I go in, I didn't even know if the place was like open or whatever, but I just like went straight in. I was greeted very warmly, and you know, the food was laid out, and I was like, okay, let's just do this. I ended up just kind of like picking whatever I wanted, and guess what, I was proved proved completely wrong. Food courts are now my favorite thing. I love them so much because that was a great experience. So after I had my little meal at the food court, I decided it was time to get a coffee, you know, and I walked around for a little bit, and I remembered at the start of the day when we were first kind of left to our own devices, I walked past this little cafe about like 5 or 6 times, and I kept just kind of giving it a little like side eye. I was like, I like the vibes in here. So this time I had a little bit more confidence because I did the whole like food court thing. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna use this confidence and go to that little coffee shop. So I walked in, I was given my seat, and I ended up ordering a coffee and this thing called a queijada. In my mind, this was completely fine. You know, I was like, okay, I'm just getting a coffee, which is something that I normally get, and I'm getting a little pastry, right? The waitress was not happy with me, not at all. She was like, 1 coffee and 1 queijada, is that all you're gonna get? And I was like, yes, like what do you mean? Like all I want is just 1 coffee and 1 queijada, like what else would I want? And she's like, well, most people get 2 or 3. And I was like, well, no, I want just 1 coffee and 1 queijada, is that okay? And we ended up just having this like big like staring match for like about 2 minutes. So then the next part of that trip was going into this castle, which I completely forgot the name of, but I am going to put like photos and videos right now. And then, so the next part of the trip was going to the sea, going to like a coastal place in that area. And of course, this is another thing that, yes, it could be enjoyed in the sun, but that's not what we got that day. So honestly, as much as I did enjoy like Sintra, this was my favorite part of the trip. I remember just standing in front of the ocean for a solid like 10 minutes and just like meditating, and it felt really nice. You know, I felt like I was getting to a place of peace, a place that I was not frequenting at that time. No, I was not. So overall, in conclusion, I do think this trip is worth it. It's definitely not overrated, and as you will see from the photos and videos that I've included, it doesn't matter what weather it is, you are still gonna get like a great experience. So definitely check this out if you are going to Lisbon. Now, if I would make any sort of like changes to it, of course I would like the groups to be smaller, because for me, doing these little like group tours, whether it's intentional or not, you're going to like meet people, you're going to have like conversations, and when it is a bigger group, it is kind of harder to have that happen. At least for me, like that's how I feel. Like I definitely get overwhelmed in big groups, and so I do wish there were more like social and like interactive aspects to the tour, you know, like even like asking like everyone in the group like where they're from, like, or even like asking them like to like name like a fact about them or something, you know, something that would kind of get you to like something that would make it easier for you to kind of like interact with people. You know, like we are kind of in an age where people are more scared to do that for some reason, you know, like whereas I feel like years ago, like before my time, it was like you wouldn't even think about it, like you would easily just like be able to like talk to people and it wasn't like an issue. Now it sort of feels like some people just don't want to be talked to, they don't want to like meet new people, and to me it's kind of like, well, that sucks for you, because I feel like you can learn so much from talking to people, like, and it's always the people who in your head you have labeled as, oh, I can learn nothing from this person, I can like, you know, like this person is nothing like me, that you learn the most from. Like this always happens, but you have to be open to it. So yeah, after I got back from the day trip, I felt good, but I feel sort of like this like longing to connect to people, like to meet new people. So I ended up booking a walking tour in Lisbon, just because I felt like I hadn't really experienced the city on my first day. And I think that night I sort of became fed up with being in this sort of like fearful lack mindset that I was in for the first part of the trip. And I was like, you know what, tomorrow is going to be a good day. I claimed this, you know, I was like, the trip is not over, you guys. Tomorrow is going to be a good day. I'm saying it on this video. Tomorrow I'm going to see the best parts of Lisbon. I'm going to meet great people, have great conversations. We're going to try great food. It's all going to happen tomorrow. And then I'm going to go away from it and I'm going to be like, wow, this was an amazing day. So yeah, I believe that. So I definitely set that sort of positive intention. And you guys, it is always the advice that I give that I never listen to. Like, you can look back at my last few shorts and it is all of the advice that I should be listening to. Because I feel like on the inside, like, I know this. Like, I know that this is the truth. But I don't know. I think on this trip, I was just in a lot of fear. So yeah, I ended up waking up and this was day 3 now, and I felt a lot better, you know. I was excited. I was, you know, just really excited to have like this last full day in Lisbon, just to experience it finally, you know. Like, I really didn't get to see the city on that first day, so I was excited to get like a guided tour. And guess what? So when I got to the meeting point, it turned out that it was actually going to be a smaller group, you know. So I was like, yay, like finally I'm gonna get to like talk to people. And yeah, so I did get to meet new people, talk to people, and I felt a lot more connected, and I also felt a lot safer in the city. So the tour guide, he definitely did an amazing job of just explaining everything, like from the history to kind of how to get around the city. And he even pointed out this one area called Alfama, which, if you have done research on Lisbon, which I bet most of you have, honestly, like I'm probably the only person that's been, well, no, there has to be someone else who also just booked this trip blindly, but this is like the one place that you will see recommended to visit if you are visiting Lisbon. It's this old town called Alfama, and basically what's special about this place is that it survived the big earthquake that Lisbon had like years ago. So this is something I also didn't know, that Lisbon actually was struck by like a huge earthquake, and like most of the city that you see now has been completely rebuilt. And the tour guide basically explained that a lot of people live knowing that they could lose everything, and that really struck me, you know, like the fact that the people living there know that at any moment like a big earthquake could strike again and everything could collapse, you know. But yeah, like I was saying, Alfama was one of the districts that did survive the earthquake because it was actually built on a huge rock. You know, the whole area is built on a rock, so the earthquake didn't break it down. But this was a place that I actually went to on my first day. So when I first got to Lisbon and I was kind of like rushing to get into the city center, Alfama was like the place that I found that seemed like a cool like touristic spot with like views. So I went up there and did not feel safe, you know. Like I felt yet again like people were like looking at me, like there was a lot of dodgy people there. But the tour guide actually explained that that is one of the safer places in Lisbon, you know, that actually a lot of tourists go there, and people go there throughout all times of the day. Like people go there at night, you know, and just like kind of learning about this made me feel a lot safer, you know. And yeah, on the tour I did go to a lot of places that I had been on the first day, but I got to experience them from a completely different way, you know. At that point I was sort of picking up on something that is in Lisbon and that was there from day one that I hadn't like fully understood. And this tour put me in a calmer place where I was able to kind of observe that and start like understanding like what it actually is that struck me so much about the city. So yeah, the tour lasted I think until like 1 or 2 o'clock, so it was actually like pretty long, and we went to a little coffee place, but he kind of like left us off so we could like go get like lunch wherever we wanted to. So yeah, I ended up walking around and I found a restaurant that I wanted to eat at. I ended up going in, and it was a nice change of pace because it was really busy in the city. Even though it's not like tourist season in Lisbon, it's still a very like busy city, so it was nice going into somewhere that just wasn't like as packed. I ended up ordering my food and it was nice, it was delicious. But basically I had my food, and then after that I go to pay and I was like, I'm paying by card, and they're like, well, do you have a Portuguese card? And I was like, no. And then they were like, do you have cash? And I was like, no. So I was like, oh, that's fine, you know, like I'll just get like cash out of the ATM. And this ended up being like actually a really cool part of the trip. So one of the guys from the restaurant ends up like going out with me, and he's basically like we're like trying to like find this ATM. We end up having this whole conversation. He tells me he's from Nepal and he's like working at this restaurant. He's, you know, like asking me these questions about like Dublin, and I'm like, this is like the best conversation I've had on this whole trip, you know? So actually me not being able to like pay for my food ended up being like really cool. But we did end up finding an ATM, and then I paid. So yeah, after I had that little moment in the restaurant, it was like the music in the background started playing, like, you know, like in the movies where like things just start to come together. So something that I didn't mention, so actually on the guided tour that I went on, one of the parts that was meant to be included was a trip in one of the trams, which I kept seeing, right? They kept like going by me on that first day. We didn't get to do it in the guided tour, you know, and basically the tour guide said like, oh, they're like not running today. So I was like, oh, because I really wanted to go on this tram, like I wanted to have like that tram experience. So I was walking, I was in that area where the pink street is. From the corner of my eye, guess what I see? I see the tram, and I think it's called like tram 28. Like there's a specific tram that will take you from the city center into the Alfama area. So I saw it and I was like, wait, so they're running again. So I ended up finding like the little stop for the tram, and I waited there for a few minutes, and one came and it was fully packed. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm probably not gonna get to do this. And right about when I was gonna give up, another one came. So I had been waiting there for like 15 minutes, no tram came. So when this first one came, I was like, the next one is going to be in another 15 minutes, but actually no, one came right behind it, and I ended up getting on. And this was like such a cool experience. I have like one video that I'm going to just put here, but yeah, definitely it felt really cool. Like I was truly like in awe when I was on there, and it was such like a simple thing. And like I definitely saw like a lot of people like looking around like, girl, like why are you doing this? Like this is so extra. But like it was fun. Like I was finally having fun on this trip. And I felt like the more fun that I was having, the more I was able to kind of let go of these like fearful thoughts that I was holding on to. I felt like going on that tram was the kind of journey to getting to a place of more understanding and actually seeing the lesson that I was meant to learn on this trip. And I ended up seeing the lesson in just observing my environment from this new place that I was in. You know, when I was able to have fun and be in this like joyous state, I was looking around me and I ended up seeing a lot of people just also like having fun and like enjoying their day. And I ended up actually seeing a lot of love and feeling a lot of love. I figured out that the thing that really struck me about Lisbon that I couldn't describe and that I couldn't like put into words and express was love. And this really made this fear go away and dissolve. Just kind of this knowing that this place is built on love. People move through the city with love. I started to feel it, you know, and I was like, this is weird. I haven't felt this, you know. I've never felt like love coming from a city, from a place. Like it's even now it's kind of like hard to like explain it. It was this like unshakable feeling of love, unconditional love, you know, and all I had to do was just open myself up to it, to experience it. And when I got off that tram and when I got back into Alfama, I walked around and I felt so at ease. I was just kind of like moving around with this like love energy, and I began to see people and I began to see the whole city from a completely different perspective. You know, I was wandering the streets, you know, I was smiling, I was like just having so much fun. And I remember going down this like one random alleyway and seeing these peacocks like completely out of nowhere, and I truly felt like I experienced awe and like just amazement. I couldn't believe it. You know, I couldn't believe it. And let me tell you something, like seeing these peacocks, like I have not seen a peacock in so long, and they are really cool creatures. Like, why are they so, they're so cool and mysterious. So yeah, I remember when I was able to open myself up to that feeling of love that was around me, that was already there, things just started happening, you know, and I ended up having a lot of fun. I ended up like talking to people, like meeting people. So yes, I'm going to conclude this deep dive and really kind of tell you guys what it is that I'm taking from this trip. And the first thing is that I still have a lot to learn about myself. You know, I really thought I had it like figured out, but I think you never truly fully figure it out, and you know, that's just part of life. So I'm definitely grateful that this trip was able to bring a lot of these things that I had no idea about, these fears, these doubts that were deep within me. This trip really brought them to the surface, so now I'll be able to work on them and like really let go of them and like learn from them. And yeah, one of my big goals is to make things from a more open place, you know, a place of abundance and a place of love, you know, something that for a long time has felt very foreign to me, you know, especially if you are someone who has lived in a survivalist mindset, you know, just kind of going from day to day, thinking that this is like the one chance, you know, thinking that things are finite but they're infinite, you know, kind of, yeah, something I really want to fucking learn is to be able to have more love in my life and make things out of love. And I really felt like going on this trip to Lisbon, that is something I saw and I felt a lot of, you know, it was in the smallest moments, you know, the way people would smile, the way those like small interactions I had throughout the trip. And even that thing the tour guide said, you know, he mentioned how people live knowing that the city could have like an earthquake at any moment, but they still live with so much love, passion, and freedom, you know. And it felt really inspiring. Like I truly felt uncomfortable at first being there, but I feel like Lisbon is a place I could learn so much from. You know, it was seeing people kind of live their life in the way that they wanted to. Like, so yeah, I guess part of my goals is to learn how to work from a place of love. And who knows, maybe my next trip will be the next lesson. That was definitely the biggest insight from this trip, you know, that love is infinite, you know, and it's all around me. You know, I just have to be open to it. So yeah, something else that I want to point out and include in this video, the taxi ride home felt like outro credits. Like for some reason, I don't know, I got into the taxi and the taxi driver, he was playing Tupac, he was playing Celine Dion. It felt very cinematic, and you know, I was just kind of like looking out of the window. It was nighttime, and you know, I was just like reflecting on the whole thing. Like yeah, I guess that's why I wanted to make a whole deep dive into this trip, because it really has felt like there was something that I was meant to learn, whether I'm learning it right now through making the video or it's something that I learn in time. I'm very grateful for it, and I'm I'm excited to put a lot of this into practice. And for the people who made it this far, you are truly the real. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.